Hi everyone, welcome to the September 2016 edition of the Deis community meeting. You probably noticed we've been moving pretty fast recently, so there's lots for us to share. So here's some of what we have in store today. Seth is going to introduce a new member of the Deis engineering team. Super thrilled about that. Jason's then going to run us through the Workflow 2.4 release, share some of the juicy features. And speaking of juicy features, I believe Helgi on the Deis team is going to follow up with a demo of something I'm personally really excited about, which is a container-level autoscaling in Workflow powered by the Kubernetes horizontal pod autoscaler primitive. So pretty cool there. And then we'll wrap it up with Jason walking us through the Workflow roadmap. And definitely would love to solicit some feedback from some of you folks if you want to speak up today. So that's what we got in store today. And with that, Seth, take it away.
All right, so I'm here actually to introduce Matt Tucker. He's M. Tucker on the video display in this conference call. And it's actually his first day here in the Boulder office with the Deis engineering team. And a few aspects of his work caught our eye. One, that he's based in Boulder, so he's a local, always a good plus. He was a consistent attendee and contributor in helping aid discussions in Docker and Kubernetes meetups that we have in the office. And then he actually adapted the Deis router for the Drud project to use Caddy server. I'll actually post kind of what that looks like in the chat here in case you want to take a look at it. And then he also made a Kubernetes Slack integration tool, which is right here. And so those things, having some Kubernetes knowledge, being a fan of Golang, going to GopherCon, are all pluses. So if you feel like that is also you, not necessarily live in Boulder, but reach out to me, seth@deis.com, and we can start a conversation about getting you on board with the Deis engineering team. So with that, I actually want Matt Tucker to talk a little bit more about what interests him in the Kubernetes ecosystem.
Cool, thanks, Seth. So yeah, I've been using Kube for quite a bit of time now, and worked most recently on a deployment system for Drupal and WordPress inside of Kubernetes, so I'm definitely interested in stateful applications and the added complexity that state gives you when working in Kubernetes. I'm also very interested in Kubernetes jobs and building job pipelines. I have quite a bit of experience with things like Python Celery, and I really want some of those same features of being able to chain jobs together inside of Kubernetes. So that's definitely an interest of mine. And then a third interest of mine is around security and secret storage. I have quite a bit of experience with HashiCorp Vault, and really interested in a project which I will paste a link to right now, which is beginning to use HashiCorp Vault as a backend for Kubernetes secrets. So I definitely want to spend some time looking at that. And then finally, as a true Boulderite, I started playing Ultimate Frisbee as a kid and still play a ton of that, but I have also transitioned into a lot of disc golf. So that's what I do outside of work.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. Definitely look forward to seeing what comes of that HashiCorp secrets, of the Vault secrets backend. That's something we hear a lot from folks, so I'm excited about that. So at this point, love to kick it over to Jason Hansen to talk about the Workflow 2.4 release. Jason?
Thanks, Gabe. Just want to give a high-level overview of some of the feature functionality that we shipped in 2.4. One of the things that's been great sort of post-move to Kubernetes is the ability for us to start moving pretty quickly and delivering on a lot of the long-standing feature requests that we've seen from the Deis V1 days. I think it tends to prove out the fact that Kubernetes has been a pretty solid engine for us from a feature dev standpoint. Up first, we've got application routing or private applications. This feature allows you as the operator application developer to unpublish your app from the public edge router, which means you can start to deploy applications internally as services that, part of a microservices approach. This can be enabled and disabled via the Deis CLI very simply. So Kubernetes name resolution and the service within the context of the cluster will still continue to work, so your apps can all talk to each other and discover their endpoints through Kubernetes DNS. So that's super slick. As well, Matt Fisher wrote a blog post with some examples, and that's up on the Deis blog. One of the other things that we added is the ability to specify health checks per process type. So now if you've got a set of workers as part of your application and they need to be health checked independently from, say, your web tier, you can now specify the full set of health checks for those worker types. So that's a liveness check and a readiness check, and that can be a TCP port connect, it can be an HTTP request, or a container exec command, much like the web tier. Up next, we are preparing to be able to specify limits for the Deis Workflow platform components. So as we move forward, we want to make sure that the workflow components, or the components that are deployed as part of workflow, end up being good Kubernetes cluster citizens. So to facilitate that, we've created a set of a place for operators to specify CPU and memory limits for all of the workflow components. So those are there now. So when you're installing or upgrading workflow, you should see a new set of optional parameters that you can specify in the generate params.toml file. In addition to that, or in concert with that, we've shipped a new dashboard for Grafana. That dashboard shows all of the workflow components, their CPU and memory usage over time. And we wanted to kind of approach this in two ways. One, to allow cluster operators to see how the platform components are behaving in their specific environment. And then hopefully you'll share that information back with us so we can start to see sort of steady state workloads or steady state usage for each of those pieces, which can inform our future defaults as we sort of start to publish the charts. So give that a look. It's under Grafana dot and whatever your cluster name is. The username and password are in the docs. It's admin if you haven't changed it. So take a look at that. It's under the Deis components health name. And definitely share that information with us. Love to see how all this stuff is working in the wild. The last big change for 2.4 is now we are using deployments by default. So any application that is deployed through workflow, Kubernetes deployments will be powering that under the hood. We've been pretty happy with the deployments overall. That also allows us to start doing things like auto-scaling via horizontal pod autoscalers. For cluster operators, the big change is going to be now you'll see a deployment per process type. And instead of replication controllers, you will see replica sets. So pods will still be there. The naming convention has changed because that comes off of the pod definition hash. So things will look a little bit different, but that's the mechanism that is working there. If you haven't upgraded to 2.4 yet, we do recommend that you convert your applications to deployments before upgrading. If you don't, your next deploy will convert it under the covers. So that process has been going pretty cleanly so far. So that's 2.4. Wanted to now hand it over to Helgi, who's going to give us a preview of what he's working on for 2.5, and that's application auto-scaling. So I will pass the baton to Helgi if I can figure this out. All right, Helgi.
All right. Hey, everyone. So like Slack said, I've been working on auto-scaling for this release, and it's a bit of an interesting beast because in Kubernetes 1.2, it was considered a beta feature, and in 1.3, it's considered stable, so it's working on totally different APIs with totally different specifications. So I've had to handle that in my code. But the demo is going to be pretty short. So is this big enough for everyone? All right, cool. So right now, I just have a simple demo application with one process. I haven't set any auto-scaling on this, but it's a fairly simple setup. Deis auto-scale set. You can do it on any process type, so you can scale the web tier or the worker tier totally independently. So in this case, I have a CMD you have to specify a minimum and a maximum of pods you want to scale to at any given point. And then you also have to specify the CPU percentage. And this is a bit of a weird one. This is the target CPU usage that you want to go for. So Kubernetes will use the horizontal pod autoscaler and try to keep your setup at 80% in this case. So if you don't need more than 80% and there's no real load on the cluster, this would just scale things up from 1 to 3, I would say. So we don't wait for things to scale when you apply this, because there might not be a scaling action. You can apply this even before deploying an application. But if we run the PS again, now you see there are 3. However, if we try to do something funky like scale CMD to 10, that will take a little bit. But what's going to happen behind the scenes is that the autoscaler is actually going to scale it down from 10 to 8 because it sets the parameters of what you can have. So in this case, it goes, oh, okay, I managed to scale it up. But if we look again, after a little bit, the pod autoscaler, it runs on a 30-second interval. It will scale this down. So that's kind of the gist of it. Right now, you can only set the CPU target. Kubernetes doesn't support anything else as of now. So we're considering this an alpha feature until further notice, just because it's so new in Kubernetes, and there are still a couple of lingering problems upstream, it seems. So yeah, that's it for now. I mean, it's a very small feature in itself when looking at it like that, but it gives you auto scaling, which is fun. Any questions?
No, yeah, this looks great, Helgi. This is something that we hear from customers in the wild. Very often are looking for ways to solve auto scaling. Those of you who come from VM-centric environments like AWS will know that it's actually relatively easy to get a VM auto scale set, so you can actually expand and contract your capacity at the VM layer. And as we as an industry moved into containers, we sort of lost that ability. And the introduction of the horizontal pod autoscaler primitive is pretty important, and I love to see that work being pulled up into workflow at this point. So that's terrific. At this point, if you do have any other questions for Helgi or anyone else, feel free to drop them into the chat. But let's kick it back over to Jason to talk a little bit about what we have in store for some of the next workflow releases.
Cool, thanks. Back to me. So it accidentally turned into the me show. So I hope you don't get too sick of my voice. As everyone knows, there's been a lot of dust as we've kind of made the V2 transition. And I wanted to touch base with everybody now that the dust is starting to settle and we're starting to get into our regular release cadence, just about where to look for what is happening, and some changes that we've made to make the changes to our process that we've made to hopefully increase visibility into the guts of the system. So first off, and this is directly from community feedback, we've started publishing aggregate aggregate change logs for every workflow release. These will be published into the documentation site, so deis.com/docs/workflow, and on the left-hand bar there's a new changelog section. As I've talked about in some of the blog posts, workflow is now a release of component releases. So inside, these changelogs are all tracking workflow releases. And then inside, you'll be able to see all of the various component changes that went into that release. So take a look there. If you have any questions or feedback on that format, a great place for feedback is opening an issue on Deis Workflow, which is the source of documentation for all of this stuff. Second, we are publishing milestones in GitHub to every component. Those all have automatically managed dates. So as we plan out the releases on our weekly cadence. You can see when the next planned release is. We spent a lot of time doing release automation around this stuff, and we getting our release windows shorter and shorter. So usually we're, plus or minus a couple of days on every release. It's not bad for all of the moving pieces. Third, we've also published a list of features, upcoming features, mostly coming from sort of the carryover from Deis V1 into the roadmap section under workflows documentation. So we've got a set of features there, loosely organized into category. The things that we've done, shipped in previous releases are noted there, and any associated GitHub issues along with that piece of feature functionality. There are a few features that don't or have not yet been linked to existing issues, and I'll be going through and dropping concrete links there. And those issues that are all linked are a great place to drop in and give your 2 cents about what you would like to see and not like to see for workflow functionality. And especially if there's something that's missing, definitely feel free to open an issue against Deis Workflow. We'd love to hear proposals and requests from the community, and that's the best way to kind of get these things into the hopper. I think those are the big 3 things that we've got going on with respect to roadmap visibility. Let me pull up the actual features here. With respect to 2.5, that's pretty much under flight. Horizontal pod autoscaling and application autoscaling is the big banner feature there. We're also tackling some per application configuration specifically around enabling or enforcing SSL, as well as IP whitelisting, which are continuations from some V1 work. With respect to 2.6, we're still sort of solidifying our ideas around that, and would love to hear what the community is looking for from a priority standpoint. So GitHub Deis Workflow is the place if there's not already an issue there. Oh, that's all I got.
Good stuff. Well, it's really exciting to see the pace that that we've been able to continue with, due in large part to the Kubernetes underpinnings here. I'm very excited about all this workflow work, but also some of the other work we have going on in Kubernetes upstream. The Helm project is proceeding very nicely. For those of you who aren't following that, that the Alpha 3 release that came out features in-place upgrades of Helm packaged charts, and they can basically diff the different manifests in a live deployed application, which is a pretty big requested feature, and we hope to actually migrate the workflow installation process to that new Helm once we consider that baked and fully ready. A number of other items we have working on the engineering side, not all of which we can talk about yet, but all of which are extremely exciting, and we hope to share in this meeting coming up soon. But other than that, unless there's any other questions, I think we can wrap it up and meet up next month, same time, same place. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Take care.